All right, so it's been a few months since we last took a look at Soulframe, the upcoming action combat open world MMO light from Digital Extremes. This is the game that looks to build upon the foundation of what made Warframe successful, but in an entirely new setting and theming. So as Warframe is sci-fi and fast-paced with high-speed movement and a focus on guns and space magic, which you use to clear these large groups of enemies quickly, Soulframe is like the inverse of that. It is fantasy with a much slower pacing, more grounded, methodical combat focused on melee, nature, and elemental magic. So the game is currently in early alpha with testing periods that they refer to as preludes. As of this recording, they are on preludes number 10, with update 11 coming out sometime soon. I think they're targeting at some point in September. Now, the last time we covered this game was back in November 2024, and there have since been a few major updates. So I wanted to jump back in and see how things have progressed, which I'm happy to say they have progressed rather nicely. It is not a complete game, far from it. In fact, I'm sure it has quite a bit more time left in development. However, what is here as a foundation currently, I am rather impressed with. I said it earlier in the stream, but when this thing is done, if they have much more content than they do right now, I could easily see myself playing this more than I played Warframe. No, I like the more grounded and slower pacing of this, for sure. Again, it's not an either or. Like, I also like Warframe, but I like all the animal shit. I like the grounded, more methodical combat. I like a lot about this. I can't wait till they get more game. Now, in case this is the first time you have ever heard about this game, here is the basic rundown. This is an open world space that you explore seamlessly with no loading screens, and beyond just like kind of walking through the natural environment, you're gonna come across various points of interest, towns, ruins, camps, all full of enemies. There are also world events that have you completing objectives at multiple points of interest, kind of moving you through the environment from one area to the next, doing different things at each point. There are underground dungeons that take place in multiple different themed locations, and beyond moving through rooms clearing enemies, you're also going to find puzzles, bosses, and hidden secrets. Also, these dungeons are procedurally pieced together. So this is one of the dungeons. The way they do these is they are procedurally pieced together. So like the gate behind me closes and then my instance of this dungeon loads up. And so they've got many different, depending on the dungeon itself and the area, and there's going to be like different templates for different areas. There are many different rooms, and most of those rooms have multiple branching paths, and then those branching paths can either connect to another new room type or a hallway and then a room type, you know what I mean? And they just take like, so say there's like 20 different room and or hallway combinations. Every time you run, there'll be a different configuration, and you won't always get all of them, but you'll get some combination of them. And that's basically how they do their dungeons. That's how they, every time you run the same dungeon, you'll come across the same rooms, but they'll be laid out in different orders. Then beyond taking out the enemy faction, which are referred to as sinecures, you're also there to help reverse the damage that they've done to the environment by doing things like destroying oil wells that pollute the nearby waters, or rescuing animals that they've captured and caged. All right, we're gonna free these guys. Hey everybody. Healing myself up while it's happening too. Love to see it. Okay. There go the beavers. Look at him go. I'm getting out of here, bro. Animation is really... As for combat, it is an action combat system. Now, people often ask if this is a Souls-like, and I think the game's name, Soulframe, kind of lends to this conception that people have. However, it really isn't at all. It's more just traditional action combat and really lacks the heavy animation locking of Soul-style games, though there are some similarities. Is this like a Souls game? No, it's... I know Souls is in the name. It's like, it's a fantasy spin on Warframe with more action-like combat, reminiscent of Souls, but not nearly the same. Like, the game doesn't really have animation locking for the most part. You can cancel... A big part of what makes Souls combat is the commitment to animations. And this game, like, you can cancel a lot, if not everything, but it's still action combat with combos and contextual attacks. Like, I've got a light attack combo chain, a heavy attack combo chain. There is a weapon throw, and you literally have to call it back. If you don't, you're meleeing bare armed. So you call it back and you get your weapons. There's also drop attacks with heavy. If you do light, it does that. But if you do it with heavy, it's a drop attack. And there is dash attacks that are unique, which is this double stab for these weapons. And every single weapon, there's a bunch of different weapons. Every single weapon has its own suite of those combos. There's melee, there's range, there's two-hand, there's one-hand, there's different classes. Different weapons scale off different attributes, but then also it's got the animation canceling. And like Digital Extreme's prior game, Warframe, the power progression revolves entirely around crafting and leveling gear and classes. That's the whole thing. That is how you progress through this game, or that's what you're working towards. Is there crafting in the game? Yeah, it functions similarly to how it does in Warframe, where you have to find blueprints for the item. There's like multiple, they're called fragments. And then once you have all of them, you need to, oh my God, I can make it. This is the next class. Or these are the fragmented recipes, so I have to find more blueprints for these. And then once you find all the blueprints, then you just need the resources. And then once you have all the resources, then it will show up and you're ready to craft. As for the basic gameplay loop, well, you go around clearing the points of interest, completing various world events. You run the dungeons, which differ each time because of that procedural room layout, and then you will use the resources gathered from both of those activities to craft new armor, new weapons, and new classes that you have found the recipes and their required ingredients for. And then while those items are being crafted, because there are build timers in this game, just like in Warframe, it's going to be a free-to-play game like Warframe, and it's going to have a general power progression structure as Warframe. So yes, the build timers are there, and they're probably going to monetize cosmetics and color palettes similarly to Warframe. Expect that aspect of Warframe to probably be similar, if not identical here. While that is happening, you head back out to do more stuff, get more resources, find more recipes, and then also through gaining experience, you are leveling up your equipped weapons, as well as whatever class you happen to have equipped at the time, because you can freely swap between any of the classes that you have crafted. Okay, so that is the basic rundown of the game. Now let's take a look at the new stuff that has been added over the course of like the 9 or so months since we last covered it. For starters, they have doubled the play space. The map is twice as big as it was in the past, and with that, they've added a bunch new content and stuff in those new areas, as well as new stuff in the old areas. Right now, what there's to do in the game is you have this open world map. It's about doubled in size since the last time I played. All of these markers are POIs I've discovered. There's plenty more that I haven't discovered even in here. In fact, I'm sure I could spot one. Like, that's probably a POI that I haven't discovered yet. And when I do, I'll get that marker. And you unveil its name by discovering moats. But some of these POIs are above ground. Some of them are underground dungeons, and those dungeons have rooms that are procedurally pieced together. So you'll have like one room type with different branching paths, and there's many different dungeons. I think the last time I played, there's 5, and there's more now. They have completely reworked how world quests work. These are now much more elaborate. There's just more steps to them. So I've actually figured out how these world quests now, the Sparrow Tails used to be that they would just pop up. You would just be walking around, then after a few seconds, a new sparrow's tail would pop up, and you'd click for the sparrow and it would guide you to whatever your objective is. But now with these factions, basically it brings me to this area, and then I talk to this guy and he gives me like a little note, and then he tells me objectives that I have to complete that tale. And this is actually kind of cool because some of these are multi-direction. Like, so here's one where I'll do this first one, clear the sinecure camp, and then I'll have a choice of which direction to go until I head to the final one, which this is a fight against the stag, the corrupted stag, and a boss encounter. I did this one earlier, but yeah, they've changed up how like the open world events work compared to the last time I played quite a bit. They have added social hubs to the game, which is exactly what it sounds like. Little root guys. That's another real player. What in the ever-loving... Is this a social hub? Look at these little... Hello? I found the social hub! Dude, this is fucking sick, dude. Holy crap. I love it already. Combat is vastly improved. It just feels much more impactful. with the host of new options available to you, different weapons, tools, and classes, and all of it feels better. Speaking of which, there are new weapons, including my personal favorite, the inclusion of sidearms. This is a secondary weapon beyond whatever primary weapon you have equipped, and it just opens up a lot more combat variety, ways to engage with the enemies. Brother. Is there a heavy with these? Oh my god, are you kidding me? Alright, sometimes there's guys down here. I want to try the projectiles against them. Jump and throw? Yep. They got a little bit, you'll hang in the air for a minute. How to swap? R. Before you make a sidearm, the swapping does nothing. They look like they'll explode. I know, right? You're right, they do. With the light that they have, unless those are just tracers, right? Like, this extra utility is exactly what I was looking for, just to have the option. There are also new classes referred to in this game as packs. Now, I tried a couple of them, but the main one that I really focused on was this Orengal class, which basically has you having... You're just a wolf. You're a wolf, and you've got wolf pups that help you in combat. It's pretty cool. My dude stays there. I think he'll just get smashed. Oh, shit. Oh, wait a second. It does this? Oh, wait. Nobody told me it did that. Okay. I changed my mind. It's good. All right. Wolves, come. Wolves? Oh, there you are. There you are. Oh, my God. They're adorable. Yeah. I don't know if that's gonna get old. I think it might not. And they've introduced a brand new dungeon type referred to as the crypts areas, which are a little bit harder to get into as they require a key. Oh shit, I need a key for this. Is this the entrance to the crypt? Or is this just a loot chest? I don't have the key. That's the entrance. Okay, so I need a key that I don't have. Do I have to craft it? And with all of that new stuff, there is a fair bit of content currently in the Prelude's testing at the moment. Probably like a solid week's or couple weeks worth, depending on how much you play throughout the course of a week. How much content is actually in the game right now? Last time I played about 8 months ago, it was like roughly 20 hours before I had like been to every dungeon, cleared all the POIs, ran the dungeons a few times. I could have still kept playing to farm up some more weapons, but I was kind of fine. It looks like there's about twice as much here now. And again, the amount of time really depends on like how much you grind, how much, you know what I mean? But there might be about 40 hours right now if you went around and did everything, leveled up a weapon and a class. All right, so with all that, got some updated thoughts after having revisited the game. For starters, I just gotta say, the combat feels much better for sure. There's a lot more weight to the attacks, and I think they've made some really nice improvements to the animations, the sound effects, the feedback. Just all around, combat feels better. It's definitely not like super heavy, weighty that you might expect from some action combat games. It does still feel a little Warframey in terms of the lightness to the combat, but it's also certainly improved, and I hope they just keep making strides forward. Is melee gameplay satisfactory? It's gotten better. Yeah, I definitely think it's gotten better. It's not as impactful as like a God of War melee combat system. It does feel better than the last time that I played. I think the combat feels good. I think the melee could still use some more oomph to it. I already love the increase in variety with the sidearm weapons. I feel like that's such a huge addition. I'm so glad they implemented it. Like having the extra mechanics from the sidearm, having the access to a range in addition to melee or vice versa. Like I could be playing a staff build and have a melee sidearm, so I can have access to both melee and ranged at all times. I want to craft as many sidearms as I can to try the different play styles. Shit, that was a trap. I didn't know this game even had that. Also, I gotta say, the game just continues to look fantastic. The world, the environment, and just the whole setting and the nature theming. I adore it. Like, it's a great space to spend time in. Ooh, let's check out that castle over there. Wow, look at that shot. Them walking on the ridge there. That's nice. Genuinely, I like the setting a lot more here. I like the theming, like this, again, it's like this whole, like, it's fantasy, but it's also like very nature focused. We're rescuing these animals and everything. We can talk to the animals. Like, it's just all really neat. I like it a lot. Not everybody likes that stuff. I dig it personally, so. And I'm also happy to see that they are continuing to expand the play space, on top of the fact that just that they're aiming from the start for this to be more of an open world game compared to how kind of segmented Warframe is. Even though Warframe has open world elements, open zones, it's a very like loading into one area after the next, whereas this game is all about open, seamless exploration without loading screens. It's really great. Like, I know Warframe has open world areas and basically maps that they've added, but Warframe by its very nature is incredibly segmented. Like, you're flying to constellations, you're loading into missions. This game from the onset is being developed as a large open world, and they're slowly they're flushing it out with content, with POIs, with dungeons, with social hubs. Like, that combination with the theming and the setting, like, I'm just like so on board with what they've shown so far and what I've seen so far. There are a handful of things that I definitely want to see as they continue through development. For starters, I would like to see the continued expansion of the open world, obviously, but also a lot more activities and random events. There are some random stuff that you're going to come across periodically, but I'd love to see like more events, more roaming bosses, maybe sinecure invasions where a whole horde of enemies take over areas. There's just a lot of potential of things that they could do with this, and I hope they continue to expand upon it. I'd also like to see just more elaborate points of interest in the overland, because right now, while there are POIs scattered all over the place, all of the top level points of interest are rather simple. You got like a few buildings. There's not much depth or verticality or exploration there. You'll just walk into an area and there'll be like maybe 4 or 5 buildings, or even the castles that they have currently in the game that you can explore. It's just like an open courtyard and then some ramparts, and like that's it. So I'd love to see more depth to the overworld. The underground exploration through the dungeon system and how it's procedurally put together, that is all great, but I'd like to see the explorable spaces in the top level of the game to be a little bit more interesting and have more depth than they currently do. Also, I would just like to see the more of the MMO plans that they have for this, the shared world environment, because right now, there's really none. Like, you've got the social spaces where you will see other players. You load into an area and then you'll see people walking around. But the second you load out of that social space, and it's not like a hard screen load, it's a dynamic transition. You just go into your instance version of the world, and then when you go into the social hub, you will see other players, and then you leave the social hub and it's back into your instance version of the world. Assuming and hoping that they're going for something like a Destiny style of game where you go into this open space and you're going to occasionally see a handful of people also doing stuff in the world, because right now, unless you're partied with someone, you never see anybody. So I'm hoping they lean more into these MMO elements, and to go along with that, like more large scale group content, I think something like that would be great. I gotta say, they've added this new system of world trees, which I think is a good idea, but I don't really love how it's currently implemented exactly. I think there are some tweaks that can make it much better. I'm looking for the world tree. That's how you lift fog. I honestly don't love that. I just wish the fog lifted as you walked through the spots. I swear it used to work that way, but since I played last, they added these world trees that you interact with, and then it will lift a section of the map. I don't know why they do it this way. Like, I feel like the world trees should mark POIs in the area, and walking through should lift Fog of War. It feels like it should work that way. I don't get this whole... interacting with the world trees doesn't even mark the POIs. You have to still walk up to the POIs. Like, I just feel like it's a little backwards with how it's currently set up. And then finally, the game's just really fairly easy at the moment, and I would like to see them add more difficulty, because right now, it's just not very hard at all, really. So, game looks rather easy. Yeah, it's definitely on the easier side. There are like harder contents that you can come across. At one point yesterday on the stream, I had a world event that led me to like a horde mode encounter. There was something like 20 enemies chasing me at once. That was a shit show. And I died many times. But the basic camps are rather easy, especially as you level up, because that's the thing. Like in Warframe, your weapons, you craft a weapon, it starts at level 1, you use it. As it levels, it gets progressively stronger. And so that's like my weapon right now. I've leveled up a fair bit. It's level 18 right now. So that plays a role into it as well. Overall, though, man, like I am pretty impressed with the updates that they've made to this game over the past several months. I think it's making some great strides towards hopefully being something amazing. Like I genuinely adore the setting, the environment, and the characters. I like the class fantasies that they're going with. I'm just really hopeful that they can, again, lean more into those shared world elements, parts of the games, continue to expand things beyond what's like currently in the social hubs. But other than that, there's so much about this game that I can absolutely, without question, see myself enjoying the final product far more than I enjoy Warframe. And that's saying a lot because I like Warframe. Like I've played it a couple hundred hours over the years. I enjoy it every time I go back to it. This kind of speaks more to me what they have as a baseline here. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed. And I think, again, they're making good strides in that direction. Quite excited to see where the game goes from here. Again, it's still in alpha testing. If you guys are interested, I do know you can register on their website, and they're just periodically letting people into the Preludes test, and it's my understanding that with time they're letting in more and more people to keep numbers up as they continue testing. So if you're at all interested, register on the site. You'll probably get in at some point. They've got no current announced timeline as to when they're going to like sell the game or when it's going to go to early access or whatever. No specific date or even time frame nailed down as far as I'm aware. So, but that's about it. Yeah, game's looking good. Like I really, really like it so far, and I'm pretty pumped. Like I can't wait to see them continue to add to it. But that's all for today. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.